We talked about childcare expenses can be claimed by spouse with lower net income. Now, if we go through Form T778 and we go to Part C of Form T778, the spouse with the higher net income can take the deduction for childcare expenses if the spouse with lower income is in following situation. Number one, if the spouse with lower net income is in full-time or part-time educational program. Number two, if the spouse with lower net income was mentally or physically sick and is incapable of taking care of the children. Thirdly, if the spouse with lower net income was incapable of caring for the children because of disability or infirmity. Or the spouse with lower net income was confined to a prison. And last one, if the spouse with lower net income was incapable of caring for the children due to breakdown in relationship and there was no reconciliation for 90 days. Now, in all the above situations, the spouse with higher net income can take the deduction. But the calculation is a little bit different. For children under age of 7, the spouse with higher net income can claim $175 per week for number of weeks that the spouse with lower net income was in school or was disabled or was in prison. And for children over age of 7 but less than 16, the amount is $100 per week. And for disabled children, amount is $250 per week. For example, let's say the spouse with lower net income was in prison for 10 weeks, then the spouse with higher net income can take childcare expense deduction for 10 weeks only. And the balance must be deducted by spouse with lower net income. Now, if we move to Part D of Form T778, Part D only deals with net income. You can only make a claim in Part D if you're the only supporting person and you were in school, or you're married or common law but both of you were attending a full-time educational program. So in Part D, instead of 2/3 of earned income, you can take 2/3 of net income, and you still have to go by number of weeks. And same amounts for children under age of 7, which is $175 per week, and children over age of 7, $100 per week, and for disabled children, $250 per week applies. Also note in Part C and D, if the spouse with lower net income is attending part-time education, then the deduction is taken by month, not by week. For example, if there's a lower net income spouse who went to school for 3 part-time months and has a child who's age 5, then the deduction would be $175 times 5 months. And that would be on Form T778, and the deduction will go to T1 General.